Today, I want to talk about a hospitality trend that I think has much bigger real estate implications than many people realize. And that's the continued rise of nature travel and non-urban demand. At ITB Berlin 2026, Airbnb co-founder spoke about nature travel, rural regions, and the next era of travel. Airbnb's partnership with ITB also emphasized nature tourism and rural development. On the surface, that may sound like a travel industry talking point. But when a major platform keeps leaning into the same message, it's worth asking a different question. What does this mean for real estate? I think the first takeaway is this. Nature travel is not just about where people vacation. It's about how location value is being redefined. For a long time, hospitality strategy leaned heavily toward major cities, dense corridors, and traditional gateway destinations. That made sense. Density supported demand. Airports supported access. Business travel supported occupancy. Urban energy supported restaurants, nightlife, and attractions. But the market has evolved. Travelers are increasingly drawn to places that feel scenic, quieter, more restorative, and less crowded. That does not mean cities stop mattering. It means the competitive landscape for demand is getting broader. And once that happens, some markets that used to look secondary start to become a lot more interesting. That's why nature tourism matters for real estate. If a rural or non-urban market has strong natural appeal, decent accessibility, and the ability to support a compelling hospitality concept, it may have much more lodging potential than old-school assumptions would suggest. In other words, the value of a market may no longer depend as heavily on density alone. That's a big shift, because in real estate, demand patterns do not stay neatly connected. When consumers start consistently showing interest in a certain kind of place, capital eventually starts chasing that demand. Developers ask different questions. Investors begin looking outside the usual zip codes. Brokers start telling new kinds of location stories. And that's where I think this trend becomes especially important. Nature-driven demand supports a different kind of hospitality thesis. Instead of asking how close a site is to office towers, convention centers, or urban retail, the better questions become these. What natural assets surrounds it? How memorable is the setting? How easy is it to access? And does the hospitality concept fit the environment? Those are very different development questions. They push attention towards scenic corridors, national gateways, waterfront locations, mountain towns, lake regions, and other non-urban markets that can offer what travelers increasingly seem to value: space, beauty, experience, escape. And that shift has implications across the board. For developers, it means product-market fit becomes even more important. A property in a nature-driven market should not necessarily be designed like a generic urban hotel. The concept should align with the location. Outdoor integration, place-based design, flexible amenities, local identity, and experience-driven common spaces may matter more in these settings. For investors, it means looking harder at overlooked destination markets. Some of the strongest hospitality opportunities may not be in the most obvious cities. They may be in places that benefit from durable natural demand and growing traveler interest in non-urban experiences. For brokers and advisors, it means location analysis needs to evolve. A market's value is not always best explained through urban density, job growth, or traditional tourism metrics alone. In some cases, emotional demand tied to natural appeal can become a major part of the story. That does not mean every rural market suddenly becomes investable. It also does not mean natural beauty solves every operational problem. Accessibility still matters. Infrastructure still matters. Seasonality, concept, and execution all still matter. But it does mean the old idea that best hospitality opportunities are automatically the most urban ones deserves to be challenged. Another reason this trend matters is because it fits a broader consumer movement toward experience-driven travel. Nature tourism is not only about scenery. It's about how people want to feel. More travelers seem to want trips that feel immersive, restorative, and distinct from daily life. Rural and nature-based destinations can deliver that in a way many urban environments can't. And in hospitality real estate, feeling matters. A property that's closely tied to a memorable setting may have stronger positioning than one that's merely functional. That can influence marketing, rate strategy, guest loyalty, and long-term relevance. Again, not because the location is rural, but because the concept and the place reinforce each other. I also think this is important because it opens the door to more geographic diversification in hospitality investments. If demand continues spreading into non-urban markets, then the map of where investors search for opportunity may widen over time. Markets once dismissed as too small or too remote may become more serious candidates for the right type of lodging development. That is a meaningful shift because when opportunity gets geographically wider, the industry has to think differently about land entitlement, infrastructure, design, and storytelling. It's not just about building more inventory. It's about building the right kind of inventory in places where demand is becoming more emotionally and experience-driven. So what is the big takeaway here? I don't think nature travel is a side story anymore. I think it's becoming one of the more important signals in hospitality real estate. If travelers keep choosing scenic, less urban, and experience-led destinations, then the markets that benefit from those preferences keep becoming more relevant for development and investment. It does not eliminate the need for strong underwriting. And it does not mean every rural market is ready for hospitality growth. But it does mean this. The next meaningful hospitality opportunity may not be where people work the most. It may be where people most want to get away. And if you're in real estate, that's a trend worth paying attention to.